What if every silent tear, every heartbreak, and every injustice you've endured was seen, counted, and destined to work for your good? What if the very pain meant to break you is the tool God is using to shape your destiny? Imagine realizing that the rejection, betrayal, and loss were never signs of abandonment. They were confirmations that heaven has been fighting for you all along. Welcome to a journey of healing, vindication, and hope. God's justice is not absent. It is perfectly timed. Your story is not over. It's only just beginning. How God deals with those who hurt you. Divine Justice Will Prevail by Billy Graham. You've been through some things nobody knows about. You've smiled in rooms full of people while your heart was quietly breaking. You've cried silent tears at night, wondering if anyone up there sees what's happening to you. And let me tell you, my friend, God sees every word that was spoken against you, every betrayal that cut deeper than any knife, every injustice. You suffered quietly while keeping your dignity intact. He saw it all, and He didn't just see it, He felt it with you. You see, the world may overlook you, but heaven never does the same. God, who watched over Joseph when his brothers sold him into slavery, is watching over you. The same God who heard the cries of Hannah when her heart was too heavy to form words, hears you even when you don't know what to pray. That's the kind of God we serve, not distant, not detached, not distracted, but deeply involved. And entirely aware sometimes people will hurt you, and they'll act like it never happened. They'll go on with their lives, they'll post their pictures, they'll laugh with their friends, and it will look like they're getting away with it. And that's where the enemy likes to whisper, God must not care if He did. Why are they still smiling while you're still suffering? But that's a lie from the pit of hell. Because God isn't ignoring your pain, He's collecting it. Scripture says, God stores our tears in a bottle. That means not one drop of your sorrow is wasted. Not one moment of your pain goes unnoticed, while others may forget what they did to you. Heaven keeps record not for revenge, but for justice. And justice in God's hands is never rushed. But it is always right. You don't have to prove your side of the story. You don't have to defend yourself in every conversation. You don't have to keep reliving the moment that broke your spirit. What you do have to do is trust that God is a righteous judge, and He judges not just actions, but hearts. He knows the motive behind what was done. He knows what was said behind closed doors. He knows who smiled in your face but poisoned your name behind your back. And He says, vengeance is mine, I will repay. There's great comfort in knowing that you don't have to carry the burden of making things right. That weight was never yours to bear. God is not just the God of mercy. He is the God of justice. And His timing is perfect. He waits, not because He's weak, but because He's wise. He gives space for repentance. But when that space is misused, He steps in. When it seems like nobody will ever be held accountable for what they did to you, you can rest, knowing that heaven keeps the books balanced. God saw you when you were mistreated, and He's not done writing your story. He will lift you up in front of the very people who doubted you. He will restore what was stolen, and He will do it in a way that only He gets the glory. Because when God deals with those who hurt you, He doesn't just bring you justice, He brings you healing. He doesn't just correct the wrong, He builds something new from the rubble. So don't lose heart. Don't let bitterness take root. Don't waste your energy trying to return fire with fire. Just keep walking in integrity. Keep staying faithful. Keep choosing peace when you have every right to choose war. Because the same God who watched the cross is the same God who rolled the stone away. And if He raised Jesus, He can raise you. He sees it all. And in His time, He will make all things right. There's something deep in the human heart that wants to make things right when someone hurts you. There's this pull inside to strike back, to show them they didn't break you, to make sure they feel the weight of what they did. It's almost natural to want justice, to want them to feel the same pain they caused you. But here's what I've learned. God never told us to carry that kind of justice in our hands. He said, "Vengeance is mine." And if vengeance belongs to Him, that means it doesn't belong to you. There's peace in letting go of the fight. There's strength in choosing to step back and letting God step in. Because when you take justice into your own hands, you limit what God can do. You see, your justice might fix the surface, but God's justice goes deep. He doesn't just deal with actions, He deals with the heart. And while we're trying to hurt back, God is working on healing, restoring, exposing, correcting things we could never accomplish on our own. It's hard. I know, especially when you've been wronged, when someone lies about you, betrays you, disrespects you, and then acts like nothing happened. You want to speak up. You want to expose them. You want to fight for your name. But let me tell you this. When you hand it over to God, you hand it over to the one who never loses a battle, the one who sees the whole picture, the one who knows how to bring justice without compromising your peace. Think about David. He had every reason to fight Saul. Saul hated him without cause. Saul tried to kill him more than once, and yet, even when David had the chance to strike, he chose not to. Not because he was weak, but because he trusted that God would take care of it. And you know what God did in His own time, in His own way. And David didn't have blood on his hands. He had peace in his heart. When you try to fight battles that belong to God, you end up drained, bitter, and broken. But when you surrender it, when you say, "Lord, I don't like it, I don't understand it, but I trust you to deal with it," you free yourself from carrying what you were never meant to carry. That's when real healing begins. That's when restoration begins. That's when the peace that passes all understanding starts flooding your soul. There's something powerful about choosing to walk away from revenge and into trust. You're not letting them off the hook. You're putting them in God's hands, and He knows exactly what to do. He knows how to bring truth to light. He knows how to turn tables without you having to lift a finger. He knows how to bring beauty from ashes and purpose from pain. You don't have to make them regret it. You don't have to make them understand. Just walk in the light and let God handle the shadows. It might not happen overnight. Sometimes God waits, not because He's slow, but because He's working on a bigger story. He's doing more than you can see. And while you're crying over what they did, God is preparing a future they won't be able to touch. He's preparing a table for you. Not just any table, but one in the presence of those who thought they had the last word. That's the kind of justice only God can write. So hold your peace. Don't let the pain pull you out of your character. Don't let what they did to you make you become like them. You're not meant to live in bitterness. You're not meant to be a prisoner to your anger. You are meant to live free. And freedom comes when you stop trying to settle the score and start trusting the one who already paid it in full. You don't have to fight for revenge when your defender has never lost a case. There's a moment in every life when pain walks in, uninvited, when the people you trusted turn their backs, when the love you gave so freely is met with silence or betrayal. And in that moment, it's easy to ask, why God? Why did you let this happen? But what if I told you the pain wasn't meant to break you? It was meant to position you. What if the very thing that caused you to cry yourself to sleep was the same thing God was using to push you into purpose? God doesn't waste pain. He doesn't sit in heaven watching your suffering with indifference. No, He's a father, and like any good father, He uses even the hard things to shape you, to mold you, to lead you closer to where you were always meant to be. Sometimes we want comfort, but God gives us calling, and that calling often comes wrapped in disappointment, betrayal, and heartbreak. Look at Joseph. He was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold as a slave, falsely accused, and left in prison. Everything about his story screamed injustice. Everything about his journey felt like loss, but every painful step was leading him to the palace. Every closed door, every tear, every lie spoken against him, it all had purpose, because God wasn't punishing him. God was positioning him. And it's the same with you. That relationship that ended, that friend who turned cold, that door that slammed in your face when you gave it everything you had. It may have felt like punishment, but God was using it to redirect you, to take you from where you were to where He needs you to be. Because sometimes we won't move unless we're pushed, and sometimes the push comes through pain. You may not see it now, but later you'll look back and thank God for what didn't work out. You'll thank Him for the people who walked away, for the doors that never opened, for the moments that didn't go your way, because you'll realize those things weren't working against you. They were working for you. Pain is not always the enemy in the hands of God. Pain becomes a tool, a divine compass pointing you towards something greater than you imagined. Sometimes He allows it because He knows if you stayed comfortable, you'd settle for less. He knows you'd stay in places that limit you in relationships, that drain you in environments that silence your voice. So He shakes the ground under your feet, not to destroy you, but to move you. And let me tell you, friend, God is more committed to your future than your comfort. He'll allow the storm if it wakes you up. He'll let something break if it's what opens your eyes. Not because He's cruel, but because He loves you too much to leave you where you are. You see, when you're in pain, your prayers change. Your hunger deepens. Your vision sharpens. You begin to lean on God in ways you never would have if everything had gone according to your plan. It's in that brokenness that you discover your real strength, and not the strength that comes from your own willpower, but the strength that comes from knowing you're being carried by the one who holds it all together. God is not absent in your pain. He is present in it. And He's not just present. He's working. He's building character endurance, faith. He's cutting away what doesn't belong and planting seeds for something greater. That's why you can't give up. That's why you can't let your current pain convince you. that God has left you. No, He's closer now than ever you may be in a pit right now. But the palace is still part of the plan. You may feel forgotten, but heaven hasn't lost your name. You may feel stuck, but God is still writing your story. And He's not done yet. The very pain that tried to bury you is going to be the foundation God uses to bless you. So don't mistake the shaking for the end. Sometimes God has to let something fall apart, so something better can come together. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. There's something sacred about staying silent when you could speak. There's something powerful about keeping your peace when you've got every reason to shout your side of the story. And I know it's not easy. It goes against everything in our human nature. When you've been hurt, lied about, misjudged, and mistreated, it feels almost natural to want to defend yourself, to explain to, set the record straight. But sometimes God will ask you to stay quiet, not because He wants you to lose, but because He's already preparing your victory. Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom, it's strength under control. And more than that, it's trust. Because when you choose not to fight every battle with words, you're saying, God, I believe you can handle this better than I can. That kind of trust shakes the gates of hell. That kind of surrender gives God room to work in ways your words never could. Sometimes the loudest statement you'll ever make is the one you don't say when you walk away from the drama, when you let them talk, and you stay still when you know the truth, but you don't need to prove it. There is a grace that falls on you when you stop trying to fix everything and simply rest in the knowledge that God is not blind and He is not silent. Jesus stood silent before Pilate. The King of all creation had every right to speak. He could have explained Himself. He could have defended Himself. But He stood in silence because He knew who He was. And when you know who you are in God, when you know your identity is secure in Him, you stop needing validation from people. You stop needing everyone to understand you, and you start finding peace in simply being. Still, some of you are exhausted, not because of what happened, but because you're trying to control the narrative. You're trying to get people to see your side, to understand your pain, to admit they were wrong. But let me tell you something, some people will never admit it. Some people will rewrite history in their minds just to protect their pride. And you've got to be okay with that, because you're not here to win arguments. You're here to walk in purpose. You don't need closure from people who were never honest with you. To begin with, you don't need approval from those who never saw your worth. All you need is the quiet confidence that comes from walking with God, that inner stillness that says, they may not understand me, but God sees me, and that's enough. Let them say what they will let them believe. What they choose, the truth, doesn't need a defense team. It stands on its own. And in time, God has a way of revealing everything. The same mouths that gossip will go silent when God elevates you. The same eyes that rolled will watch in silence when God vindicates you. And you won't have to say a word. Your life will speak for itself. Sometimes, God will keep you hidden while lies about you run wild, not because He's forgotten you, but because He's setting the stage. And when He brings you out, when He lifts your name, when He opens doors, no man can shut. Nobody will be able to deny that it was Him. That's why you don't need to clap back. You don't need to respond. You don't need to match their energy, because God's justice doesn't make announcements. It just shows up. There is a quiet strength in trusting God to handle what you can't. in choosing to keep your head high and your spirit pure, in walking away from the noise, so you can hear the voice of the one who matters most. You don't have to prove your value to people who never took time to know your heart. You don't have to carry the weight of someone else's dishonesty. Let them talk. Let them twist the story. Because while they're talking, God is working. And when He's done, your silence will make more noise than their lies ever did. It's one thing to forgive someone who says, "I'm sorry," who looks you in the eye and owns the hurt they caused. That's hard enough. But what about the ones who never apologize? The ones who walk away like they did nothing wrong? The ones who act like your pain was never real, like your tears never mattered? That's where real forgiveness begins. That's where the heart meets the fire, and the soul has to make a decision to live in freedom or stay shackled to the memory of what was done. Let me tell you something that might go against what your feelings are screaming. Forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about you. It's about your peace. It's about your healing. It's about your future, because unforgiveness is a silent prison. It looks like you're free, but inside, you're chained to a moment, to a face, to a name, to a word that was never taken back. And the more you replay what they did, the more power you give it over your life. The truth is, they might not lose sleep over it, but you do. They might have moved on, but you're still stuck. And that's why God calls us to forgive, not to let them off the hook, but to unhook you from the weight that's been crushing your spirit. Now, I know it's not fair. You didn't deserve what happened. You were loyal, you were kind, you gave your best, and they took it for granted that kind of pain carves deep. But that's exactly why it takes something supernatural to release it. Because your flesh wants revenge. Your mind wants answers. Your heart wants justice. But your spirit wants peace. And peace doesn't come from getting. Even peace comes from surrendering the pain to the one who knows how to heal it. But you don't have to feel forgiveness to choose it. It's not always emotional. It's intentional. It's waking up every day and saying, "I won't let this bitterness own me. I won't let this memory poison my joy. I won't keep dragging yesterday into today." And some days, you'll have to say it again and again. But every time you do a little more of the weight, music lifts a little, more healing enters, a little more light breaks through the darkness. Forgiveness doesn't mean what they did was okay. It doesn't mean it didn't hurt. It doesn't mean you have to let them back into your life. It simply means you've made the decision to stop bleeding from a wound they may never acknowledge. It means you've chosen to let God deal with it instead of trying to carry what only He can carry. It's saying, "God, I give this pain to you because I can't live like this anymore." There's a reason Jesus said we must forgive 70 ports. Or 7, because sometimes you've got to forgive the same person for the same thing more than once. Every time the memory creeps back in, every time the anger stirs, every time the injustice knocks on your heart, you forgive again. And with every act of forgiveness, you're not just obeying God, you're healing yourself. I know there are some wounds that feel too deep, some betrayals that feel too personal, some hurts that time hasn't healed, but what time can't do. Grace, God's grace is deep enough, wide enough, strong enough to help you release even the things you thought you'd carry forever. And the moment you choose to forgive, even without an apology, even without reconciliation, even without closure, that's the moment you start walking in freedom. You don't need their sorry to move on. You don't need their approval to heal what you need. is the strength to let go, the faith to trust God with the pieces, and the courage to rise above what was meant to destroy you. Because the truth is, they may never make it right, but God always. You were never meant to carry the weight of betrayal, injustice, or heartbreak alone. Every wound you suffered is held tenderly by a God who writes redemption into every page of your life. Healing isn't forgetting. It's choosing to live free while God handles what was meant to break you. His justice doesn't just settle scores. It restores dreams, rebuilds strength, and reveals a purpose greater than the pain. Trust that every silent battle you fought will echo into a louder victory than you could ever imagine. The tables are already turning. Stay faithful.